Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live stream here on Adobe Behance. I hope you are having a very lovely Tuesday. And if you're not, it's definitely going to get a bit better because Bruno Souza's here. Hey, Bruna, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
Thank you for coming. Honestly, I'm really excited to get into this today. We're talking about poster design, and the whole crew are already in the chat. Really looking forward to getting into some bold graphics and vivid colors. So I want to say hello, Angus, Sean, Sandrine, Tim, of course, is in the house. Jelena as well. There's more of you, that are coming in. I can see. So yes, come and join us in Behance today. It's all about poster design, and Bruno will be sharing some great tips and really just some process really about how Bruna gets started. If you're watching on YouTube, come over to Behance, because if you have questions, this is the place to ask them. And I'll make sure that those questions get asked today on the live stream. So Bruna, please tell us a little bit about you, because this is your first time to Adobe Live, is that right?
Yes, that's true. So my name is Bruna Souza. I'm originally from Brazil, but I moved to Amsterdam in the Netherlands when I was quite young. So I've grown up in a very international environment. I studied fine arts at university in London. And since then, I've kind of taught myself graphic design. I've been working as a professional graphic designer. At this stage, I'm kind of merging my creative fine art background with my practical graphic design communication skills. So now I'm kind of doing a bit of creative direction, a little bit of everything, trying to keep the artistic flow going.
I love it. Yeah. And I love the colors. I mean, we always joke on the live stream because I'm a big fan of, the brighter the better, I would say. But your work, you've got your Behance profile up here at the moment. And I just love the fact that you've got these beautiful gradients. You can see that the gradients are coming through the text you've got on the posters. So talk to me a little bit about, the look that you go for, because you can see that this is your work. This definitely stands out. So how did you end up with this style? How did you get this style?
I don't know. It's kind of like a natural process, I feel. I've always been drawn to very vibrant colors. I feel like it might be a part of like my Brazilian heritage that we love brightness, we love color, we love expressing ourselves. You also see that in like our culture and our personality. So I'm just very drawn to them. They make me very happy. I also love rainbows. I feel like anything holographic or rainbow colored, it just brings me so much joy. And I want to kind of communicate that and bring that joy to other people through my work. So you can tell I love color, love gradients. And I also work a lot with text. I feel like it's a good way to kind of get ideas across, and kind of mixing that with visuals. It's interesting to play with.
It is. And I see that you've got such a great portfolio on Instagram. I've been looking on Instagram today, as well as Behance. And then you've got a separate portfolio page, actually, where you've got a lot. We should definitely share all of the links to these in the chat for everybody. Sure. But these should we jump into your portfolio? You've got some great work. Here we go.
Yes. So this is like my website / official artistic portfolio.
So cool.
So like I was saying, obviously I love rainbows, so I try to throw that in there with a bit of animation, try to keep it playful with the text, with like wavy shapes. And then I showcase how I work through design, through photography, video, and I also do a lot of exhibitions, because that's my artistic background, always keeps calling to me. And I really enjoy doing something physical where you can interact with people in an audience and see how they react to your work. Yeah,
that's cool. And you've got lots of different things here. You've got obviously the photography, the video. What's your favorite thing out of all of them? Because there's quite a few.
That's a hard question to answer, but probably I guess design, just because I think I've worked with it the most. So it's just very comfortable for me. I just love having kind of a blank canvas, and having a computer, you have so many possibilities. And because you're not doing something physically, it's easy to experiment with different ideas. And it's not like you've created an error that you can't erase. You can easily just duplicate something, try it in a different color, see how it looks, and see how you feel about it.
Oh, I love it. And do you find as well that, do you collaborate with people on the video side, for example, or do you do all of this yourself, like end to end?
So I definitely collaborate with people. I would say, I mean, sometimes mostly with clients, of course. If I'm doing personal projects, I would say it's probably mostly my own. Um, but with photography, I've collaborated a lot with friends. I have a good friend, Isabel, who's also really good at photography. So we've done a lot of photo shoots together, where we kind of both take turns being behind the camera and helping each other kind of form the ideas. So yeah, I really enjoy working with a partner like that. But actually, no, I just realized I collaborate a lot with audiences in my work. For example, this was a project where I went to a art conference and then I took portrait photography of the people who attended there. We had some conversations and I asked for like their feedback on the conference itself. And so I used their own writing, like their phrase or notes or quotes from the exhibition itself. So this is like her handwriting, and then I use that in her photograph. So I do that a lot where I kind of collect text from others and use that as a part of the work itself. So I feel like that's a different form of collaboration as well. Yeah.
I do. I've never seen anything like it, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the colors. I love the fact that you've got the people in there, with their quotes, and the fact that it's just written on the page like that. I love that. Very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Oh, cool. Well, everybody in the chat, if you've got any questions for Bruna today, please pop them in. I'll make sure that they get asked as we go. And I can see Tim has put links to your portfolio, Behance, Instagram, lots of different projects. So yeah, definitely have a look through there, everybody. Absolutely. So Bruna, what are we going to look into today? What should we jump into? What project have you got?
So today is a very personal project. I'm just going to open up my Illustrator here so I have something to show as like a reference. So today I decided to design a live poster. Hopefully we can do a series of posters, but I think it depends on, I have a lot of ideas and we're just going to kind of go through the creative process and see what works. And if we have time to experiment with it a bit more, develop it more, or maybe create multiple ones, then so be it. So the theme for today is based on some notes that I've taken. I have a collection of just notes, thoughts, and random mind wanderings. These are based on, just philosophical insights or after a therapy session when you're kind of being very introspective. So random thoughts. Like I mentioned, I love working with text, so I wanted to create something with that and make it into something visual. So these are some of the quotes that I've written down. We're probably just going to start with one, lay it out, see how it goes. I have a few color palettes for inspiration, some fonts that I've gathered as well in different styles. And then so this is a series of posters that I have previously designed. This is kind of the style that I want to replicate today. So I'm going to share how I actually create this technically. And then this underneath here is a separate project that I've done before. And I wanted to see if I can somehow merge the two, but I don't know if that's even going to work or not. So I figured let's do it one step at a time. We'll recreate this, then see if we can add some kind of illustration, maybe in the background, maybe have the little gradient forms in front of it or through it, interacting with it somehow. And if it works, it works. If it looks like too much, then we can take a step back. So underneath here are some inspiration images that I've just taken from Instagram. So in case I do have time and choose to illustrate, then we can use one of these as a reference.
That's cool. Sandrine in the chat says, looking forward to seeing those gradients in action. Yes, Sandrine.
It's all about the gradients.
Absolutely. Fabulous. This is great. And then so you mentioned that these are phrases that are things that are things that have come out of therapy, and I'm seeing lots of posters with lots of text like this, lots of sayings, quotes, and there seems to be a lot of them out there at the moment. So these are some four that that are resonating with you at the moment that you're going to make a poster for. Which one are you going to go with, or all of them? What are you going to where are we going to start?
I think I want to start with the top one. So just to read it out loud, it is accepting something isn't necessarily agreeing with it. And yeah, I mean, I think mental health is really important. I think it's amazing to see how much attention has been given to it in the past few years. I think especially with the pandemic and people being stuck indoors, they were really starting to pay attention to their mental health and yeah, give value to it. So I think it's great that we're all talking about it. I think it's important to normalize it, that we're all human. We all have insecurities. We all have rough periods. And I feel like there's a comfort from realizing that it's a universal experience. And so, for example, when I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see a piece of art that someone made with a quote that's saying like, it's okay, you know, everything isn't going to fall apart. I'm like, yes, thank you. That's that's comforting. And yeah, so it was gathering these thoughts, and hopefully this can kind of trigger that same comfort in somebody else.
I love it. I keep calling them like word art, but then every time I say word art, it makes me feel like, you know, like that application that was always in PowerPoint called word art that made 3D text that was awful. But I don't know.
With the paperclip.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know, would you call this word art? What would we call it?
I don't know. So I also considered that technically it's like motivational quotes, but I feel like that sounds so cheesy that I don't know if it's really me. But yeah, I guess it's text art, typography art.
If anyone's got ideas, please put it in the chat, because I want to know. Bruno wants to know. We definitely need to call it something, but absolutely. Okay, fab. So we've got accepting something isn't necessarily agreeing with it. Completely agree.
Yeah. Is it zoomed in enough, or should I zoom in a bit more?
No, you're all good. That's zoomed. That's good. Yeah.
Cool. I have a really big monitor, so everything's huge on my screen, but
nice. I think a lot of us invested in a couple of monitors during lockdown. So more screens the better now.
Nice. So shall I get started?
Absolutely. Yes. And by the way, Melanie agrees with us, saying that it's really difficult to find a good term for it.
Yeah.
We agree.
No, it is. Yeah, I mean, I thought of calling it therapy thoughts. We're calling it poster design therapy. Cool. Yeah, which I actually think is kind of fitting, because if you think about it, designing this is a form of therapy for me as I'm processing it. And yeah, so maybe it's a part of it.
Nice. I like that.
So I've just copied the text. I'm going to throw it into our new artboard here. Centering it.
And so do you mostly work in Illustrator then? As you create all the gradients and things? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I actually used a lot of Photoshop when I was young. I grew up photographing and editing in Photoshop. But yeah, the more that I learned Illustrator, like the more comfortable I got with it. It's just, there's so much freedom to just draw and like use your mouse or a drawing pad to create anything.
Yeah. Sean would like to know, what size artboard are you starting with?
Oh, A4. So because I was thinking here, if we click on the artboard, you can see it's size A4. Yeah, I figure if this is going to be some kind of a poster that I would like to print, then making it in this format makes it quite easy to adapt to an A3 to a larger size. Or yeah, if you want to put it into like an Instagram story, then it's just a little bit longer on the top and the bottom. So I feel like that's easier rather than doing it long format.
Good tip. And Sean asked, so you're saying what size artboard are we starting with? Sean, does this mean that you're clicking along and making this as well? Let us know. If you are, share it in Discord afterwards, please. Love to see as you go.
So I started with the most simple font, which is Nuahas Grotesque Display Pro. That's a mouthful. I figured it's good to have something a bit simple in case the design gets a little bit too complicated or like there's a lot going on. It's nice to have something to kind of balance that out. But I have a very bold personality. I like unusual fonts that have like more of a quirkiness to them. So maybe let's start with this one. So this one's called Spotnik.
Cool.
So we see here that actually this is a demo font, so they don't have the apostrophe for it isn't. So let's just leave it for now, and maybe I can draw a little apostrophe in the end if we decide to actually use this font in the end. So first I'm just going to decide how to lay out the text. I feel like I want to make sure that the words have the right impact. So yeah, I mean, I think this layout is probably going to work fine. Okay, so once we have everything in black and white, let's start with the gradients. So to start with something like this, I'm going to grab one of these color palettes. I think I'm going to start with the more vivid one because I really like it.
Nice.
So I'm just moving it over here so it's easy for me to use the eyedropper tool in case I want to copy color. So I'm going to create a background. Oh. And I'm going to send that. Okay.
There you go.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
The question. I was going to ask
no.
how much time you would normally spend on creating something like this.
Ooh, good question. I mean, if I have a very clear idea, I feel like maybe a couple of hours. But a lot of it is experimenting. So sometimes I have an idea, I make it, and it's exactly what I want it to be. But sometimes you end up playing with it and then come back to it days later and adjust things, and then it evolves, you know. But you kind of need to spend the time to do that for it to get to that stage. So I would always recommend to leave something, go back a few days later and
oh my gosh, yes, I'm completely with you, because when you stare at something for so long, I mean, it makes me mad. I can't see how to change it, so then I need to step away. Yeah, I'm exactly
yeah
it drives me crazy. Oh, Sean has shared, my poster design today was a complete fail. No, Sean, not a complete fail. I'm sure that it wasn't.
There are no fails, there are only learning experiences.
Exactly. Or character building, as I like to say.
Yeah. Sorry, my cat is like jumping in here. She loves
brilliant.
Whenever I'm on a call, she runs in.
I love her. What's the name?
Kiara.
Oh, bless her. Yes, I've seen many cats through the lockdown with everyone on calls. Love it.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy that there's an acceptance now of like children and cats just sort of running into the frame, because you have less pressure to actually care about it. And like, once again, we're all human. Like, it happens. It's out of our control. Exactly. What else are you supposed to do about it?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I've got a window that's right behind me here, which is where the kids play. And I've been on calls before now where I've been sat like this, and they've been like this against the glass, and everyone can see them. And it's so awkward. And I'm like, oh, please ignore.
That's so cute.
That's hilarious. Oh dear.
It's part of life, isn't it?
It is. So talk us through, you're making the gradient at the moment. So what are you doing at the moment to change the gradient in the way that you want it?
So yeah, when I first clicked on the gradient tool, it was on the linear gradient. So it was just from one color straight to the other. So what I love to use is actually the freeform gradient. It's the one all the way on the right. And that allows you to add points anywhere you want. And then by clicking on them and clicking on the eyedropper tool, you can change it to any color you want. So I feel like that creates a lot more natural looking shapes. It's a lot more interesting to play around with. It's just kind of fun. I feel like you create things that are a bit more unique.
Love it. I need to play more with gradients.
Yeah, it's great. You see, for example, you add a point and it just automatically has a certain color. So like this was a white. I wasn't planning on using white, but I kind of like it. So I might keep it, or I might make that one a little bit softer. I feel like maybe it's a bit too white. If you make it like a orange or red.
That looks nice.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so this is just a random combination of colors on the gradient, but I like it. I'm happy with it. So now I'm thinking the colors are going to be quite vivid. So maybe it's good to make the text white so that it stands out against them. Or another option is to make the whole background gradient a little bit lighter, like more pale, and then you can make that black. So I'm going to copy the artboard just to see the two side by side. Oh God. So Illustrator does this sometimes, where when you try to copy a gradient, it doesn't copy it exactly, and then it kind of ruins
The
it.
whole
So,
thing.
so
No.
what I had done was I tried to duplicate it by you click down Option and you click on something and then you drag it, and normally it copies something. Yeah, there you go. So this time it worked fine. I don't know why. I mean, it is what it is.
No. And with all of the other quotes that you've got, are you making a series where you're going to have a similar gradient pattern across all of those, or is each poster going to be completely different?
So I think I would like them to have some kind of a conformity, so that you can look at it and see some kind of a style or a common thread. I think it's nice to make collections, but then, it's always an option that you can make something with multiple quotes and then have like one series that's in one style. And then you take a different series of quotes that maybe have a different theme in common, like with the actual words or the content, and then make that a totally different visual. I definitely have enough clips that, sorry, not clips. I definitely have enough text that I can make like 50 different types or categories.
Brilliant.
So yeah.
And hey, I'd like to know more about your exhibitions. Like, what could we expect? Is it like posters, or because I noticed there was like a paint splatter over there was like an image. Like, is it posters, or is there like video content? Is it an experience? Like, what kind of exhibitions do you do?
So I do a little bit of everything. Because I graduated from university doing fine arts, I actually do a lot more like art exhibitions. So it won't necessarily be design. But yeah, I liked doing installations or things that are interactive, maybe like something to look at and then also some audio or something people can walk through. So I could show one of them. Do you think?
Yes, please.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the latest one that I did was actually a little bit design based, but I made this collection of words that are from Portuguese because I think so. I've lived here in the Netherlands for like more than 18 years. So my relationship with the Portuguese language is quite different to like a native speaker. And then every once in a while, I would hear people speaking words like my friends and family that I had never heard before, or I thought just sounded hilarious. So I wanted to make like a series of posters with these words that sound really funny and their definitions, and then people can try and pronounce them. So these are for examples of the actual posters. So once again, typography, gradients, and rainbows.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Nice.
And then, so this was an interactive piece that I made. And I mean, I don't feel like the photos do it justice. It was much cooler in person. But so I found this kind of holographic material that I really liked, and I wanted to do something interactive. So I just I hung it from the ceiling, and I put on a table nearby these little pieces of paper and pen so people could come in and contribute their own words that they find funny from either their own language or a language that they are learning. So then they pin it onto this giant piece of fabric, and then every person that walks by can kind of read them, try and learn something new, maybe have a good laugh.
Nice. I like the fact that there's experience there, that people can get involved in the, in the content. Love it.
Yeah. So that was one of the things that I actually enjoy the most about creating an exhibition is that people are going to be there, and so it's an opportunity to engage with them and like do something interesting, or to have them just do something out of the ordinary.
And do you find that you get booked at those exhibitions for things? Like, do people come to looking for people to work with their companies at those exhibitions, or not?
Not from my experience, because I mean, a lot of the exhibitions that I've participated in, I've kind of reached out to be a part of, or I've like applied to be a part of. I mean, at least in Amsterdam, I feel like there's quite a small art scene in terms of like galleries, or like there's many of them, but I feel like they're all, at least to me, they feel very established. So I feel like it's something kind of difficult to break into. But what I like is that there are a lot of independent artists or young artists like myself and others that I've also been in exhibitions with, and they tend to kind of do their own thing and host their own exhibition, and they're doing it for the sake of their own art. It's not to try and like necessarily sell something or find a job out of it, but it's more just to develop their practice and engage with the world.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. It's good that people are taking their own, getting themselves out there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And do you find that you're booked more for the work that you share on Instagram or Behance or your portfolio? Like, where's the place that really draws the most people in for you?
I would say it's probably a combination of my portfolio and through like word of mouth. Because I work as a freelancer, so actually, I have I'm always on LinkedIn, and I have a lot of friends or colleagues that once I started going freelance, they recommended me, or I would post a lot about work that I'm doing. So I would say the work that gets noticed, I think, is the more creative work, like the ones that I do for my personal projects, where they really show what I'm able to do creatively rather than like a corporate catalog, even though I'm very capable of doing that. So it's funny. People will see the more creative things and then kind of reach out, usually through my website or LinkedIn. Yeah.
I'm seeing so much more creativity on LinkedIn these days. So much more than was before. Because it was always seen as something very corporate before, wasn't it? And no, it's definitely turning the corner. Absolutely. Sorry, I keep talking to you about all of these other things rather than the poster we're creating, because I just so
no, it's fine. I was trying to remember what the next step is. But I'm really enjoying the conversation too, so I'm kind of like distracting myself.
No worries.
No. Right. So I was trying to make the gradient blobs. The way that I did it last time is that cool. I create two kind of circles, and then I create like a blend from the two, but I don't know why it's not particularly working at the moment. So I'm thinking maybe the gradient might be too complicated. So let's just turn it into flat linear gradient. I will change the angle because the blue is the darkest color, and I feel like that'll be nice as a shadow. So it'll be nice if it's the color on the bottom and the brightest one is on top. I like at an angle is always a bit nice rather than 100% straight top down. Okay, now let's see. So blend, make. There you go. Okay. So what I'm doing is basically joining the first circle to the second circle. It creates a straight line path. Clearly, this is not the effect that we want, but because we need to adjust the settings. So if you go to blend again and blend options, so you can do a specified number of steps. Normally I go really high, something like 500. Yeah, so basically it's creating 500 copies from point A to point B. And that means that when we look at it with a human eye, it looks like a fully blended shape. So this is the beginning of our blob.
I love it. I love that you've got a picture, which I think you shared earlier in Behance, where you had a blob that was moving around and it was wrapped around a photograph of a person.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, that was my friend Me. I did a photo shoot with her, and then I wanted to do something a bit more interesting. So
really cool.
It was when I first learned how to do these blobs. So I was like, oh, what happens if I put this into illustration? Oh, sorry, photography.
Like it a lot. Yeah, big fan of that. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to play around. That's also why I feel like a big part of my like creative career has been fine arts and then graphic design. And I feel like it's really interesting to try and bring the two together, because fine arts is so free that sometimes it needs a bit of like direction or structure. And then graphic design is too structured in the sense that sometimes you just need to like execute a brief. And sometimes I feel like being a little bit more free with it. So it's nice to kind of combine the two and see what you can come up with.
It's so good you've got all the skills in both, right? So you're in that unique position where you can bring it all together. It's definitely a gift. Of course, so you're drawing the shape now about where you want the path to follow.
Yeah, so what I was doing is using the pencil tool. The shortcut is N, and basically I can create any line that I want, and then it'll take on that shape. You can also just sort of move the circles around if you feel like it. But yeah, since I do draw, I feel like it's a lot easier to kind of create something just by drawing it with your mouse. So, and I can always adjust it. So for example, yeah, if we want this one to be like an extra wave here, you can do that. But I am seeing that there's a little bit of banding going on. So I'm going to see if we can change the settings from the path. So before we had done it, oh, I keep putting path, but it's a blend path. Yeah, so before we had done 500 steps, I'm thinking maybe let's crank that up to like 800. Yeah, so it looks a little bit smoother if you see before and after. Yeah.
Suraj in the chat says amazing posters.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are making posters nowadays, and obviously I'm just doing this for fun. It's not like I'm getting paid to create these random posters with text. But I really enjoy it, and I feel like it brings me joy to see that from other artists, and it brings me inspiration as well. So I'm kind of hoping that it has some kind of value in that sense, other than just, it's a product that you're making money off of.
No, completely. And we've spoken to so many creatives on Adobe Live that bring their personal projects to life. And I think, there was definitely one lady called Veronica who was amazing at portfolios and typeface and that kind of thing. And Veronica had shared, if you do personal projects that you love and you put them on your portfolio, then you could, people could hire you for the job that you love doing. Even though you've done them as personal projects, you could actually get paid work from it. So it's
exactly
really
good. No, I totally agree with that philosophy. Actually, I did like a series of posters from this design conference, and one of the it was also based on notes that I had taken from like the speakers, and literally one of the things that he had said was personal projects are more important than client work. And yeah, I totally agree. I feel like obviously you need to get paid at the end of the day, and we all have to do what we have to do to survive. But if you're an artist, I mean, the whole point is you need to express yourself, you need to share your view of the world. And how are you going to do that unless you are being true to yourself? And I feel like doing projects where you're not worried about budget or expectations mean that you have the freedom to really express yourself. And I think other people really connect with that because it's genuine.
Yeah. What's the longest personal project that you've worked on in time? Like, what's the longest? How long have you spent on something where you thought you just keep going back to it?
That's also a really good question. I'm like one of those people that just has a list of art projects and there's like 50, and then I just choose the latest ones that I'm most interested in or feeling drawn to at the moment to work on, and then I park them and then I work on others and kind of keep it going.
Same. I get distracted and then I'm like, oh, I need to draw that. And then I'll draw it and then come back and think, oh no, I still haven't finished that. So then I end up with too many then,
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, there's one or two that I kind of started years ago and that I feel like I came up with ideas to improve them, and I've been meaning to get to them, and I even have like certain images collected, and I just need to sit down and do it, but for some reason other things just keep calling towards me instead.
Yeah, no, it happens. Do you know, one thing I love about the Adobe Live community is that everybody, for a start, they're all lovely and they're really funny too. But one of the great things is that I was drawing the other day and I couldn't get something right. Like, honestly, it was really annoying me. And I wrote some tips, and about 3 or 4 of our creative community just jumped in and said, right, change this, look at this, try this. I just love it. Like having the fact that you've got people that can, jump in and provide help. So,
no, that's super valuable. I think especially sharing your work, getting feedback from people, it's helped me so much when you feel like stuck or out of inspiration, and you don't really know how to move forwards. But yeah, getting someone else to share their perspective, sometimes it can like solve your entire issue. Right. It makes the project so much better than it ever could have been if you were just trying to do it yourself.
Oh yeah.
So
I agree. And Sandrine would like to know, do you always have ideas to draw from? Like when you're getting time, you know, once you finish a work project and then you think, right, I've got some time now for personal projects. Do you always have ideas to draw from, or do you keep an idea bank? I think you said earlier you've got hundreds of these phrases, right?
Oh yeah, and not just in the phrases, but I just always have ideas. I don't know if other people are like that or if it's just me, but I have so many ideas, and every time I have one, I just write it down. I have a giant list on my phone, and so when I have free time, I think, okay, which one do I feel like I want to do now? And because sometimes it could be the week before I planned, okay, I'm going to work on this, and then the day comes, and I'm like, no, I just don't feel like doing that right now. I want to do this totally different thing. Procrastination is a real issue, but
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I can see Tony has joined us. Tony Danger Harmer. Tony, welcome. Nice to have you on. Nice to have you in the stream. Oh.
Thank you. That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Sorry, clearly I'm trying to multitask and apparently I'm not as good at it.
Oh my God, I'm the biggest distraction to you, Bruno. I'm sorry. I'm like, it's so much I want to know about your process and your work and your...
No, it's fine. I'm really enjoying the conversation, so thank you.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Yeah, people have said in the chat, Evie says having too many ideas has its pros and cons. I agree with that. And Sandrine has shared, I keep an idea bank, so I never run out of them in time of need. It's the motivation that lacks. Right. Yeah, I agree.
No, that's good. And because I really believe that it's like everyone will always have ideas, and who knows, maybe you'll come back to 1-2 years later, you look at your list and go through all of it and you're like, oh wait, this makes sense to me now and I really want to execute it now, but you wouldn't know unless you had that perspective. So write everything down. I would always advocate for that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Angus has shared, best ideas often come when you're doing something else. Always useful to have a pencil or a phone at hand.
Yes, completely agree. Okay, so
really cool.
I wanted to test out how it would look like with a different font, and now Adobe is doing the same thing. So sorry, not Adobe, Illustrator. I think it's just because I'm doing a lot of blends with really high number of steps and a lot of like gradient colors. So I've had some issues like this in the past when it comes to gradients. Just going to try and copy paste it instead. Yeah, so that worked a bit better. It's like sometimes I guess it's just too much information for my computer. Okay, so now I can test a different font. Let's see how it would look like. Maybe with this one in white. So that's cool. Lenny Black.
Yeah, that's cool.
I quite like this one actually. So let's.
And does it have the apostrophe, or do you have to draw that? Oh, it has it.
Okay, good. I'm like, it's not that big a deal to do it, but it's just a little bit of extra effort that it's like, we don't have to.
And what makes you decide on the font? Like, is it the wording that might make you want to pick a font that's more serious or more clean? Or, because sometimes, fonts can be so playful and obviously you've got accepting something isn't necessarily agreeing with it. So,
yeah. So it's interesting because I feel like I'm trying something different when it comes to this particular project, but normally I would say, depending on the text, it should make sense with the content. So because it's quite a serious piece of like content, I would normally go for something maybe a bit more simple, or like this one. I feel like simplicity can also be very powerful. So if you have some words that are impactful and then you just put it in a very simple font, but you have some beautiful visuals behind it, that can do an incredible job. But I also feel like that has been done before. So what I'm trying to do, at least with this project today, is to try and kind of express more of my personal style. And so, I'm embracing the funky fonts. Let's see.
I love it.
How we feel about it. I quite like it because I feel like the vibrancy of the colors works really well with the shape of the font. It's a little bit fat, like it's a little chubby, every letter. And I feel like that also works with
matches your background. Yeah,
exactly. The shapes of the blobs. And conceptually, you could argue that the phrase accepting something isn't necessarily agreeing with it can also be something positive. So it's Yeah, I mean, basically, I remember writing this down when I think I was going through some kind of like a friend fallout, and I was like pretty upset about it. And then my therapist taught me that like accepting something doesn't mean that you're happy with it, but it just means accepting that it's happened and not kind of
Yeah,
clinging on to it and
yeah,
letting it be. And yeah, that was a really great realization for me. So that's why I
yeah.
wrote that down.
And I
And
think
so
that it's
it's a
that you
positive thing.
it is a positive thing. It is. And I think that with the shape in the background, right? Because accepting something that isn't necessarily agreeing with it is, I imagine that you'd go through different feelings of that kind of turmoil of trying to accept something that you don't agree with. And so it's not a straight line, is it? It's a
Yeah.
twisted kind of, so that, your background really kind of, provides that visual for that phrase, I think. But it's good.
Yeah.
So
No, that definitely makes sense. Yeah.
love it. Stu Raj in the chat says, love this font.
Blenny Black. It's one of my favorites. I always go for it.
Nice.
So I'm just going to make the text a little bit more transparent. Okay, maybe that's a bit too transparent. Go for 80%.
I can't believe we've been chatting for 40 minutes already, and it does feel
Oh my
like
God.
10.
That's
It's flown
crazy.
by. There's still 20 minutes, everybody. So if you do have any questions for Bruna, pop them in the chat. If there's anything you want to know about Bruna's work, any up and coming projects that you can talk about, Bruna, anything that you're, let us know. Any cool things.
Yeah, so actually at the moment I'm having an exhibition here in Amsterdam. It's a project called the Recycle Jungle. So I started this initiative where I'm recycling objects and asking people to contribute their own objects instead of throwing them away. And it can be anything that can serve as a container to plant something inside of. So it's accumulated over the past few months, and now it's currently on an exhibition at the location NDSM Treehouse in Amsterdam Noord. So if anyone wants to go see it, it's there for a month. So it's just a collection of like odd objects with plants inside them, and all the plants are also donations and like recycled cuttings from other people or friends. So it's all meant to kind of promote sustainability, thinking of less waste, and also to get people to think creatively. If they're going to throw something out and buy something new, just think, well, can I fix it? Can I use it in a different way? How can I be creative with it and make something fun?
Love it. I think Tim posted the link to this actually much higher up in the chat. So if anyone's in Behance, scroll up. There's a link directly to this in there. I've seen it. Brilliant. I love that. I love the fact that upcycling is so good. Yeah, I'm all about that. I love it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to be hosting some workshops. So one this Saturday and the following Saturday, where people can bring their object and like plant it there. And so, DIYing and upcycling is also something that I love. So we're going to provide like craft materials in case people want to,
love it.
Yeah, make it look nicer. If it's like a container that has an ugly label, then you can just paint over it and, do something different, be a little bit creative.
I love it. You're living and breathing this creative, like it's just lovely. Really nice.
Yeah.
That's so good. I also like that you've come up with therapy thoughts. I think that this is good. Yeah, because word art does not do it justice.
Not necessarily. But I mean, I don't even know. I'm just going to keep it for now, but who knows? I might change it later. So because I guess it's a poster and a series, I feel like maybe it's good to have some kind of a anchor at the bottom that just describes it. So every piece can have this thing in common. And for that, it's always good to have a slightly more basic font. So it's easier to read when it's like that tiny. So I used the new has that we had in the corner, but I'm also kind of partial to Termina. I feel like I use this in a lot of my projects, and like I have 2 or 3 projects where I've used this, and it's on my website as well. So I feel like maybe it's nicely branded. So I'm going to go for that.
Nice. Hey, in the chat, Sandrina shared, I use big glass jars where I paint the base to the light, so the light doesn't come through. And it makes funny terraniums. That's cool.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So that's the thing I was considering as well, because a lot of recycled objects that we got were like bottles, which like the top is quite narrow, so it's difficult to plant something inside it because you got to fill it all up with dirt from like this tiny little entrance on the top. So another use is to fill it up with water. And then you can just use it to like put little clippings inside and leave that by a window while it like grows roots. And then once it's rooted, then you can plant it into a different container. So that's one use. And terrariums, those are great. I've never created one before, but I've always been very curious too. I feel like that's a perfect use to recycle a jar. Yeah,
that's perfect. We do autumn jars in our house. So we, me and the kids we go for a walk, get all the different color leaves, and then stick them to old coffee jars and put little tea lights in them. So that
that's cute.
They're cute. They get very hot though. That's the only thing.
Really?
I've got to put them. I've got to put them in safe places. Make sure we're not,
Yeah, is that not a hazard for your kids?
I know, right?
Oh my god.
Oh, cool. This has taken a different look. Gone lighter here. Cool.
Yeah. So here's the actual poster design. So I was editing the text. So what I've done is I expanded the font. So now all the shapes are outlined in their actual shapes. And then when you double click, it goes into, I forget what this is called, but it's like focus mode, where you can edit just this and then nothing else gets selected. So if you see, if I try and click here, nothing there is selected. It's just the text, right? So I just wanted to move them closer together. Normally I would just do that by adjusting the, I always forget if it's kerning or tracking or letting. But yeah, the height between the font, you can usually just do that here. But the thing is, it does it equally for every line. And I feel like sometimes depending on the line, for example, this was down here earlier, like that. And it's not that much, but you know what I mean. There was too much space in some places where I didn't want it to be. So you got to adjust it manually sometimes.
Oh yeah. No, I completely agree. Because when you're looking at a poster, you can really notice the distance between the letters and and sometimes you can't unsee it. When you've seen it, you're just like, oh no. It's very distracting in restaurants with menus as well.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, I'm not a typographer, so I know that there's a lot of professional typographers out there who probably think that my kerning or tracking or letting is just completely off. But you know what? I'm an artist. I look at how it looks visually and how I feel about it. And if it feels right, then it feels right. If it feels wrong, then it's wrong. And a lot of arguments that I use to some colleagues, sometimes they would spend a lot of time focusing on certain design skills or techniques or details, and then the client wouldn't even notice sometimes. So depending on who your audience is, like, do you really want to spend that much time and effort in adjusting something or making yourself like feel worried or stressed about something if when you deliver it to the client they don't really care? Or, it's like if they're happy with this, then okay, great. If it's a typography client, then that would be totally different. But
right. And I think you'll know your client, you'll build a relationship, right? So you'll know, and they trust you as well. You build this trust. So they're like, whatever you go with, which is the dream, right? It's just perfect. Sandrine asks, do you ever alter the font? And then she says, I feel like playing with the tail of the G here. Do you ever play with it?
So yeah, depending on the font, because if it's like a simple font or a kind of wavy one, or when that looks a bit more handwritten, then definitely, because this is like very structured. I don't really know what I would do with it. But so the G of the agreeing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
Could maybe make it a little bit more wobbly. I don't know.
That's cool.
No, that doesn't work.
But yeah, I see what you mean though. Nice one, Sandrine. Sandrine is excellent at fonts. She did the font, the 365 days. What's it called? The font challenge. 365 days of type.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing letters she produced. Absolutely amazing.
Nice.
So, yeah, really cool. Oh, this is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of trying something here. I don't know if I like it, but let's see how it goes.
Yeah. No, this is cool. Nice. Yeah. So, what tips would you give anybody that's getting into this for the first time, right? That's getting into poster design, and that, you know, someone that's going to try some of your techniques today that's watching the stream, what tips would you give them?
In terms of just art career or experimenting, or what do you
Well,
mean?
I'd say if you've got somebody watching the stream now or on replay on YouTube that would like to replicate the stream, not stream, the poster that you're creating, what tips would you give them and how to get started, or you know, any little tips?
Yeah, I would say to honestly watch tutorials. I love tutorials. And so, I mean, I guess this is kind of like a tutorial in a certain sense. That's how I learned graphic design. I just taught myself by watching skills that other people were doing, and then to do something of your own with it. So I would learn different techniques and practice it and follow exactly what they were doing. And then after that, it'd be like, okay, now I'm going to make something of mine, totally different, but using this that I learned. Because I feel like that's a really good way to learn the skills and then apply it to your own personal style. And that's how you also develop it or figure out what you do like and what you don't like. Yeah, and just experiment, like play around. This, I feel like this has been a very straightforward design, but honestly, normally it's a little bit more like, all right, let's duplicate this. Let's have 4 different versions, like one with a different font, one with like black, one with, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's useful to try different things because you never know what's going to work. Sometimes you have a very clear idea, and sometimes you're like surprise yourself with something completely different. So, example this, let's do it with black. It's a lot more elegant, I feel, in this font. And then let's use this little white panel that I had done. So I'm going to move that forwards a little bit and then select both of these, move them all the way to the back. Now this is in between. Okay, maybe this also has to go back.
Cool. So have a play, experiment is definitely good advice.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you kind of figure out what you like, isn't it? You gotta try it.
You do. And that Swapnil asked in the chat, what characteristics distinguish a superb poster design?
I think if it creates an impact, then I think it's done its job. It can be any style, it really can, and everybody likes something totally different. So I feel like as long as you're communicating something clearly, and that doesn't have to necessarily be with text. Yeah, I feel like then you've done your job.
Yeah, you're right. If it's made people think, if it's made people stop, and definitely had a, you know, an impact. And Melanie asks, would you also play with the font and distort it? Do you do that?
I love that. I actually didn't used to do that so much, but I've started doing it lately. I know that it's a huge trend right now for people to be stretching font. So doing like this, you see that a lot on like Instagram. But I like making wavy ones. So if you use something like a gradient mesh, let's see. Or wait, actually, if you use like, maybe pucker. Oh, right, sorry, I just have to expand it first. So object, expand appearance, expand. Okay, now we can play with it. Okay, so that one is a little bit too intense. Let's see if we can make it a little softer. So,
cool.
Here. Yeah, so I mean, this is one tool that you can use to kind of play around with stuff. I find this one very intense, so sometimes it's a bit hard.
But you'd need to sit and play with this for a while, wouldn't you, to really like?
I would recommend that.
Cool.
or like envelope distort. You can easily do that with warp. Oh, that's specifically one.
But cool though. This is a good, you could sit there and really kind of, depending on the message, because you had other messages there as well. Like something that's more like the one that you have about perception. There was a quote around perception. What was it? Something about perception's not reality.
Not everybody's perception of reality is the same, I think.
It's the same, yeah. So maybe, with perception, that could be a bit distorted font.
Yeah. Everyone has a different perception of reality. Yeah. So for example, that was just like one of the gradient warps that are like built into the system. So yeah, you can literally adjust it. You can try like the different ones. You can try different intensities, you can bend it more, bend it less. And you do see that a lot with design nowadays, with type design, that people are distorting the text to the point where you can't necessarily read it. But I love that. Because although I feel like the graphic design communication part is like inside me is saying that's not clear, but the creative side of me feels like it's communicating something that's more interesting. And like the artist inside me really is more curious about, okay, why did they do that? Or what kind of effect does it have? Or, oh, I like that. Why do I like that? And I think that's more important sometimes. Obviously, depending if it's client work or not, but yeah.
Yeah. And Melanie's amazing. She's put in the chat as well. I could also picture a font aligned to that swirl in the background. So the font following that swirl, that would be cool as well.
Yes. You know what? We could totally make that. This is actually just a line. We can go into the line and type on a path. Oh, okay, wait, it's a bit too complicated. Well, let's just do
this could be another stream. I mean, a whole other
stream. So you can literally just draw something like that. Use the type on a path tool.
Yeah.
There you go.
Love it.
So I pasted my text in there.
And it's just...
Oh, you know what? It's because
there's like only part of it
saying reality. There you go.
Oh my God. Love it. Love it. Very cool.
Everyone has a different perception of reality. Oh my God, it fit perfectly. There you go.
Nice. This is cool. I feel like we're adding more to your list of future projects, of adding more things, trying more things. Love it.
Definitely. And also this is giving me different ideas, because instead of every poster having the same font in the same format and just different colors or different shapes, it's like, why not do a different font, do a different warp, have a play. I think that's really important.
So this is definitely why community is just so amazing, because you get the ideas, you get all the other bits, right? So good.
Yeah.
So good.
No, it's definitely perfect for inspiration, and you can find it anywhere. So always be on the lookout.
I love it, Bruna. It's been so lovely talking to you today. It hasn't felt like we've been, like we've been you've been creating, but we've also had a lovely conversation. And I think someone mentioned in the chat earlier, how do these creators do it? How do they create and talk and answer all these questions at the same time in 1 hour? And I think it's just that, you're so good at what you do. And so you're just sharing your experience as you go. So
yeah, thank you. And also for everyone to remember that we're all human. That's why I had this idea, and then like I also wanted to try this, and I also wanted to try illustration. So it didn't work. There wasn't enough time. So in my head, I was like, okay, I wanted to create this. And instead, I haven't gotten that far yet. But I mean, we're all critical on ourselves. And as long as you're making and you're happy with what you're making, then I think that's all that matters.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the tips you've given have been great today. Really good to have you on stream. And tomorrow, everybody, Tony's here. So it's illustration part 2, and he's with Liz tomorrow. So we've got Tony and Liz, 2 of our Adobe hosts and creatives in one place. And then Liz will also be back here on Friday as well to look at CVs in Adobe Express. So we've still got a lot to come this week, but we'll see you all tomorrow, same time on Behance. And thank you again, Bruna. Really great to have you on stream. Come back.
Thank you so much, Maddy. This was great.
Have a great day, everybody. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.